week for you?
Well, it's been a bit of a trying week because if you have the name Nigel, you had to put up with all this sort of thing, you know, like no toys for Nigel, that was in the Star. In the Mirror, it was Nigel nothing. There we are. So and another one from the Mail. It's, you know, every paper you open, you come across these. This is the nobbling of Nigel. And quite by chance, I happened to notice this just as I was turning it on the back. It says, Nigel quits to do something in Saudi. Can you see that?
Yeah, Nigel quits Saudi to buy his ideal home.
Yeah, this is a completely different Nigel. So Nigel ran riot this week. It was rather a boring budget, and I think the newspapers barely rose to the occasion or sang to the occasion.
Victimised you instead.
Precisely so. And you've got these rather flat things. This is the front page of the Mirror on Wednesday, the day after. Today's front page was reserved for good news on jobs from Chancellor Lawson. This page is now cancelled. I think that's terribly heavy going. You know, it's trying to go back to the old days of the Mirror when they had terribly powerful front pages with things like your finger on the trigger or whose finger on the trigger. But I think the average reader, and I know this is my role on the programme, David, the average reader must say, oh, come on, stop messing about, let's get on with it. So much for that. There was one jolly bit about Lawson, or Nigel, as he's known to the press, some of the press during the week. The Express on Friday, and the women's pages had this thing about the Westminster Wobblers. And these are all the fatties in Westminster, not only in the government, but also out of it. And it gives how heavy they are and what they do to try and shed some of it. And it seems that Nigel Lawson weighs 16 stone. Did you know that?
Good Lord.
16 stone. And,
inflation.
Inflation, rampant inflation. And for exercise and sport, it has bursting out of too tight jackets is the exercise that he gets. Was once a good skier and owned a push bike. David Steele is 11 stone 4.
Well, he's certainly not a fan.
Swims most mornings and plays tennis. There you are. So anyway, enough of politics.
What else?
Because I know that later on you've got Hattersley talking about the budget, and probably Andrew Lloyd Webber setting it to music.
Exactly, and getting in the charts immediately with it. Absolutely,
That's
with magic musical Midas touch.
You want me to move on, do you?
What else you got? What's this?
This is the BBC. This is the BBC. Now then, as you may have heard, somewhere or other, the BBC is trying to get its licence fee up. And they've launched, in their wisdom, a campaign to do this. And I think even the most senior executives of the BBC would admit that from time to time they have shot themselves in the corporate foot in the process. But I think one thing they didn't bargain with was the virulent, if I may use the word, virulent campaign in the Times against the BBC. They've had 5 editorials, more than they wrote about the abdication, as somebody said, attacking the BBC. And The Guardian came along on Monday and had this editorial, BBC's critics might declare their interests, making the point that the people who are writing in the papers, the Murdochs, the Maxwells and the Matthews, might have an interest in the BBC being split up, and they might be interested in picking up some of the parts if that happened. The Guardian, of course, doesn't have an interest in the BBC being split up. But I think that was an interesting thing, because the Times campaign has been so strong that, again, speaking as the average reader...
in this humble role.
Yeah, my humble role as the average reader. I think it is counterproductive, because you say, you know, there's something going on here which we don't know about. I mean, I'm not one for conspiracy theories, but I really do think the Times have overdone it. Every day on the front page there's some bit knocking the BBC.
I know, and the selective stories, I mean, one feels sorry for the old Beeb at the moment, I think.
Well, I think they do say that by the end of the week it may well be resolved, and we shall know what the licence fee is. But that was, I think it was good of the Guardian to point that out. Now, bitchery.
Bitchery.
You like bitchery, don't you, David?
Well, oh no, I deplore it, but carry on immediately.
Where else? But this is in the Daily Mail, Linda Lee Potter's diary, or not her diary, but her page. And this is about Shirley Conran, you know, the great writer,
yes,
who's brought out a sequel to Lace with the very original title of Lace 2. You thought she might have called it Satin or Knickers or something like that, but she called it Lace 2. Anyway, Linda Lee Potter goes battling in and says this: the novel is sleazy, obscene, drivel, written by the exploitive for the moronic, and is about as titillating as a cold fried egg. She, this is referring to La Conran, did of course once work at the Daily Mail. She states that it was here that she was taught her writing skills. I find that a libelous, deeply offensive statement, and I think we should sue.
Stop pussyfooting, Linda. Do you like the book or don't you?
I bet she had a wonderful read, so I thought there was a nice bit of bitchery there. Now, you sometimes ask me about misprints.
Yes, I do.
And there have been...
And you collect more misprints than...
Well, I don't really collect them, but they come my way. the thing is that there have been misprints this week, but not funny ones. But I know that the Guinness Book of Records is something very close to your heart.
Indeed.
In fact, it's almost your Bible, isn't it?
It is, in very real sense.
Did you know that there was a section in the current edition of the Guinness Book of Records about newspaper misprints?
I did not.
I haven't been reading it closely enough.
No, I must have been reading last year's edition.
Well, this year's edition...
They change a third of it every year, as they proudly say.
Ah, well, they do have it, and this is the record for misprints in the Times. And it was set on the 22nd of August, 1978, when on page 19, there were 97 misprints in 5.5 single-column inches. So that's about that much. 97. And
beating the record held by The Guardian of...
Oh, The Guardian is now, I mean, terribly good.
Yeah.
It's long been surpassed by The Times and The Telegraph. But the passage where all these misprints occurred was about Pope Paul VI, and he was referred to as Pop Paul VI.
Pop Paul... When there was that tragedy when the new Pope died very, very soon...
John Paul I, yes.
Yes, after the previous one, but a month or two, there was one American paper who had the wonderful... I think it was the New York Post in New York, had the wonderful headline, Pope dies again.
Yes.
I mean, it was a wonderfully...
I wonder if that yes, I've heard about that one. I wonder whether... I've never actually seen it. One often wonders whether they make these things up.
Well, you can print it up in that type you use to make it look genuine.
All right, if you say so, that's what I do. We lost yet another great figure from the world of entertainment and the arts this week with the death of Sir Michael Redgrave. I think the thing about Michael Redgrave is that people nowadays who don't have very long memories may wonder why he was an actor knight, because he's been ill for so long that he didn't do very much acting really towards the end of his life. And I think if one thinks of Michael Redgrave, it was as a sort of tweedy sort of 1930s schoolmaster. I interviewed him about 15 years ago, and he really was the shyest public figure I have ever encountered. It was like trying to open an oyster with your fingers to get words out of him. Incredibly shy. But the Times obituary, they did one of their, you know, their big Times jobs, the full treatment. They tried to get to the bottom of what you know, the justification for him being an actor knight, because he wasn't a heroic actor knight in the sort of Olivier or the Gielgud mode. And it says this, negative legends clung about him. He had a reputation for being off form on opening nights. He was long held to being capable of comedy. The only quality never questioned was his intelligence. Most of the objections against him can be boiled down to the play-going public's inherent mistrust of intellectual actors, and I think that makes...
Yes, he had a great dignity to him too, didn't he?
And a very intriguing voice, a sort of warm brown voice.
Yes.
Anyway, we lost another of our great actors.
Well, I've got something... Well, you've got one more there. Let's hear what that looks intriguing.
Well, it was just about... You know these diaries they have in newspapers? Not gossip columns, but diaries, like the Guardian diary and some of the riffraff they have on Sundays. They fall down... Well, in many respects, they often write extremely rude things about oneself. But they also are very bad on old jokes. They come across a joke and they think that it is crisp and brand new. I think you and I ought to set up a little business and they could ring us up. Well, and we would tell them whether the joke was old or new. Should I try these two? This is from the Guardian diary.
I've got to guess whether whether I qualify to join this new Rees offshoot
scheme. Yes. This is the Guardian diary talking about the Prime Minister's jokes, and it has two examples. First, there was the remark about Cecil Parkinson's charity work. I hope it's for the Save the Children Fund. I think that might be original. It's not very funny. Yeah. And now there's a little witticism from a recent lunch she had at a restaurant in London with the Chancellor and several other ministers. The PM told the waiter she'd have steak and kidney pie. And the waiter asked, and the vegetables? And the Prime Minister said, oh, they'll have the same.
Yes. Now, that is not new.
It's not new. It is
but
not
it's
new.
Quite recent, isn't it?
Yes. I've actually heard that quoted about several football managers.
Really?
Yes.
You see, and yet
steak for me, vegetables for the others.
That's right, yes. So I think that is an old joke. If they'd rung up our service, we would have said...
Yes, it's like all those Fred Truman jokes about tough, fast bowlers to toffs playing at Cambridge or Oxford University, and they're applied to every fast bowler around. Let me test something out on you.
Yes.
Because on you both, because our lads and lasses around the country. This is the adverbs competition. And in fact, let me just remind you of the address again. Can we put up the caption just showing the address there for the adverbs competition? 2 weeks to go.